"Give me liberty, or give me death." When Patrick Henry spoke those words in March 1775 before the Virginia Convention at St. John's Church in Richmond, he gave voice to a mood that had been building in Britain's North American colonies for more than a decade. The crisis had not begun with muskets. It began with paper and taxes. A decade of strain. After the 7 Years' War, French and Indian War in North America, Britain was victorious but deeply in debt. London looked to the colonies not just as subjects, but as a source of revenue and tighter imperial control. 1765 Stamp Act, a direct tax on printed materials, newspapers, legal documents, playing cards, sparked boycotts, protests, and the rallying cry, "No taxation without representation." The act was repealed, but the principle of parliamentary authority remained. 1767 Townshend duties, new taxes on imports like glass, paint, paper, and tea rekindled resistance. Colonial assemblies protested, non-importation agreements spread. 1770 Boston Massacre, tensions between Bostonians and British troops erupted into gunfire on March 5th, leaving 5 dead. Patriots labeled it a massacre. Paul Revere's engraving carried the image far. 1773 Boston Tea Party. In December, protesting the Tea Act, which undercut colonial merchants, colonists disguised as Mohawks boarded ships and dumped cargoes of East India Company tea into Boston Harbor. 1774 Coercive Acts. Intolerable Acts. Parliament closed Boston's port, altered Massachusetts' charter, and allowed royal officials accused of crimes to be tried elsewhere. To colonists, it looked like a direct assault on self-government. In response, 12 colonies sent delegates to the First Continental Congress in Philadelphia in 1774. They coordinated boycotts and drafted petitions, but most still professed loyalty to King George III, hoping for redress within the empire. As Henry spoke in early 1775, the empire's relationship with its colonies was fraying, but not yet broken. That would change on a country road in Massachusetts. In London, officials resolved to assert control. General Thomas Gage, military governor of Massachusetts, received orders to seize colonial military stores at Concord, west of Boston, and arrest key Patriot leaders if possible. On the night of April 18, 1775, British regulars, some 700 men, set out quietly from Boston. But they were not moving in secret. A network of Patriot writers, including Paul Revere, William Dawes, and Samuel Prescott, carried the alarm through Middlesex County. The regulars are coming out. At dawn on April 19th, British troops reached Lexington Green, where a small company of local militia, Minutemen, had assembled. A tense standoff followed. Someone fired, no one knows who, and a volley rang out. 8 colonists lay dead. The British pushed on to Concord, destroyed some supplies, and then came under fire at Northbridge from growing numbers of militia. As they retreated back toward Boston, colonial fighters harassed them from behind stone walls and trees in a running battle. By the time the exhausted redcoats staggered into Boston, the countryside was in arms. Militia from across New England converged, bottling British forces inside the town. The shot heard around the world had been fired, and the war for American independence had begun, even if many participants still spoke of defending their rights as Englishmen, not yet of separation. In May 1775, the Second Continental Congress convened in Philadelphia. Delegates wrestled with an impossible balance, raising armies while still sending an olive branch petition professing loyalty to the king. On June 15th, they chose a Virginian, George Washington, to command the new Continental Army, in part to bind the southern colonies to a conflict that had so far been dominated by New England. 2 days later, on June 17, 1775, British forces assaulted colonial positions on the Charlestown Peninsula outside Boston. In the battle often called Bunker Hill, much of the fighting occurred on nearby Breed's Hill. The British eventually took the ground, but only after suffering heavy casualties against hastily entrenched colonial fighters who famously held their fire until the enemy was close. Tactically, it was a British victory. Psychologically, it proved that colonial troops would stand and fight professional soldiers. In London, the response hardened. In August 1775, King George III issued a proclamation of rebellion, declaring the colonies in open revolt. Parliament passed the Prohibitory Act, effectively blockading American ports, and the Crown authorized hiring German auxiliaries, often called Hessians, to bolster British forces. Reconciliation grew more distant. Through late 1775 and early 1776, fighting spread. American forces under Benedict Arnold and Richard Montgomery launched an ill-fated invasion of Canada. The British attacked coastal towns like Falmouth, Portland, and Norfolk. By mid-1776, a critical mass of colonial leaders concluded that the breach could not be repaired. On July 2, 1776, the Continental Congress voted for independence. 2 days later, on July 4th, they approved the final text of the Declaration of Independence, drafted primarily by Thomas Jefferson and revised by the committee in Congress. The Declaration did three things: announced separation from Britain, listed grievances against the King and Parliament, dissolving legislatures, ordering troops, imposing taxes without consent, cutting off trade, articulated a theory of government rooted in Enlightenment ideas. All men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. The words did not match the reality of a society with slavery, limited suffrage, and entrenched hierarchies. Yet the language of equality and consent became a measuring stick future generations would wield against slavery, against disenfranchisement, against other forms of exclusion. The Declaration did not create an army. It merely gave Washington a cause to fight for. Watch out for Part 2.